This is the World Organic News for the week ending 25th of September 2017. Jon Moore reporting. This week we begin with a piece I wrote when I first moved into suburbia, by way of a setup for next week's piece. And next week we'll be looking at a 1 square metre no-dig garden. So here we go. As the 12-month anniversary of our move into town rolled around, I found myself assessing the change. Are we still organic at heart? Is it possible to be in town physically and still out of town mentally? Well, yes and no. We lived on 5 acres in the foothills of the New South Wales Alps, with our nearest neighbour a kilometre away. We now live in a double suburban block in Blackheath in the Upper Blue Mountains. The immediate effect this had on me was a collapsing of my boundaries. No longer could I smoke and urinate at the same time while I was checking the veggie patch. Neighbours were everywhere. Cycles are different too. The changing climate is something I still haven't adjusted to. From a growing season of 90 days to one of about 150, meant I could have planted later last summer than I did. Frosts are not a thing to stop the water supply in this house. They are traffic hazards. Speaking of which, if we saw a traffic an hour, it was something of note. Nowadays I don't even hear the trains rolling by. The other major point of change is vegetarianism. This is an odd phenomenon. Of all the vegetarians with whom I have spoken, none have come from a rural background. That is, none have come to vegetarianism as a result of actually having killed by their own hand any flesh they have eaten. Seems to me that the large number of vegetarians in the area represents more of a loss of touch with the rhythms of nature than a desire to be part of them. It's not surprising. The stars are virtually non-existent in our skies, and I don't think this would ever be a problem, but there seems to be just too much rain. I suppose I became accustomed to 130 mils a year and can't really grasp 850. The green everywhere seems unnatural. Where is that healthy brown? There are, of course, compensations. It no longer takes an hour to drive anywhere. The coffee is great and so are most of the people. The roads are all, or nearly all, tarred, and the bush is never far away. So now to the big question. Can I still be an organic person and live in what feels like suburbia? No, not really, and yes, with no trouble at all. The no part is big. The pressure of so many people so close all the time has a tiring effect. To live here is to join into the pace of the place. To avoid people is to stay indoors or in the backyard. Even in the backyard, it's not possible to avoid seeing human activity. The ambient noise level is relatively high by comparison with our last place. Exotic plants, not mating times, mark the seasons. Chooks are few and far between, but there are canines and felines to spare. This is suburbia in context, philosophy and effect. Yet on the other hand, yes, it is possible to live an organic life. I thought long and hard about being true to the spirit of organics. We still compost, we still recycle, and can't bear to see a drop of water wasted. The seasons still turn. The climate is soft compared to the realities of a montane semi-arid area, but the cycles continue. Food production poses different problems, such as mould instead of drought, but it is still possible. I can still have a minimum impact upon my environment. I can now use public transport. Snakes are no longer a problem, but funnel-web spiders are. What it all comes down to is that being organic is an internal mindset and need not be context related, and the world still benefits from my being here. In fact, the chances of making a difference are, in some ways, greater in suburbia than in the bush. The area of lawn that can be converted from fuel-using drain to a food-producing resource is much greater here than in grazing areas. If I stay with the spirit of organics that lives within, I will be okay, and so will all those other organic types who, for whatever reason, find themselves surrounded by houses, lawns and domesticity. To make this easier, next week we will look into the 1 square metre garden and all it has to offer, food-wise, resources-wise and recycling-wise. And as a special bonus, I'm going to have a download available so that you can do it yourself. Look forward to talking about it next week. If you've liked what you've heard, please tell anyone you know any way you can. I'd also really appreciate a review on the podcatcher of your choice. You can contact me at podcast@worldorganicnews.com. Thanks for listening. I'll be back in a week.